decided to dive deep into what it takes to secure an internship in this domain and how one can excel during the preparation process. We'll also have a Q&A session towards the end to address your queries.
So we are extremely honored to have our amazing panelists with us who have secured internship at top consulting firms. So our first panelist of the day is Mr. Devansh Jain, who bagged an internship at Boston Consulting Group. So Devansh, could you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Hey guys, very good evening. So I'm Devansh, currently a final year student of the Department of Mathematics, and I'm currently doing my internship at BCG. Looking forward to this wonderful session.
Thank you, Devansh. Our second panelist is Ms. Parvati Venugopal, who has bagged an internship at Bain and Company. So Parvati, could you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Yep, thank you, Pradham. Hi guys, Parvati here. I'm a third year student majoring in economics, currently in Bangalore for my internship at Bain. Yeah, guys, hopefully we have a wonderful session.
Thank you, Parvati.
Yep, no
Our
worries.
third panelist is Mr. Anshu Goyal, who has bagged an internship at McKinsey and Company. So Anshu, could you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah. Hey folks, hope you are doing well. So my name is Anshu Goyal and I'm final year student from the Department of Industrial and Systems Engineering. So I'm interning with McKinsey and Company for a TMT client in Bangalore, hoping that this session is great and hoping to address your all queries.
Thank you, Anshu.
So before we begin, a big round of congratulations to all our panelists for securing internship at such prestigious firms.
So now let's begin with the panel discussion. So the first question is, when did you decide to target consulting as a profile? So like, did you consider any other domains before finalizing this? Because being from an IIT, the pre-assumed inclination of a person is taken to be tech. So could you please tell about your juncture where you started thinking about this? Devansh, would you like to begin?
Sure. I was just about to speak. So yeah, consulting कब decide किया? I think everyone is comfortable in bit of Hindi and English. So it is not like you start feeling कि नहीं मुझे consulting ही करनी है. You have to try a lot of things. So like for myself, I will tell you, I'm coming from this mathematics department. I know कि ठीक है, tech is important. You have to use maybe data sometimes, maybe Excel sometimes, maybe coding sometimes, right? So there are a lot of things that you can explore within your department to start with. And there are always seniors who have done a lot of things, right? So you know that there is a lot of exposure out there. And if you are someone who can try out things, then you can, also at some point of time believe in your conviction that yes, this is something which I am really, liking and I can pursue it forever. So I think towards second year or sometimes a nearer third year, I started developing interest in maybe case study competitions or generally talking to seniors who are in consult, who are in non-tech fields as such, because I was already trying to excel in my tech background because of the department, but it was not very much of my interest, right? So gradually you start feeling कि यार अभी मेरे को लग रहा है कि this field is good for me, right? So in I think second year is the best time when you can explore जितना आप कर सकते हो, because in the first year you are very new to the different clubs, society, cell, ये वो, उसके बाद तुम second year में आते हो, so you start feeling कि अभी कुछ करना है, there will be CDC internships coming soon. So I think second year is the best time जब आप start कर सकते हो with your exploration phase, and towards the end of the second year you should have a clear goal कि यार for the next 6 months or 12 months I will be focusing on this thing, right? So I believe for KGP people, if you are in 4-year course, then around second year you should know ki what you have to do, and if you are a 5-year student, then obviously you have some extra time. So yeah.
Joe, what about you?
So yeah, personally, like I explored a lot of stuff before heading to consulting because I also did some coding. I also studied machine learning and stuff in my like second year, and then in third year I like kind of figured out that like this is not my cup of tea, or like this is not I can do for long. So then eventually I tried figuring out what non-tech field offers, and there are several other domains as well, like PM roles, FMCG, and consulting. So I primarily targeted these out of these three roles. I think I targeted primarily FMCG and consulting roles, and then eventually I landed an internship. I think, as Devansh mentioned, that second year and third year is the most ideal time where you should focus on building what in which field you have to go in, because I think if you are a 4-year person, then you have to sit in CDC internships in your third year, right? So you have entire 1 year. If you if you build your profile, start building your profile from scratch, you have entire second year, right? And I think in 1 year or 1.5 years, 6 months, 10 months, this building of profile is easily doable if you are committed to what you are doing. Yeah.
Parvati, what's your views?
Yeah, so I wasn't ever, I still am not a very technical person. So I always knew that I wouldn't get into, like, I wouldn't ever be interested in coding or things of that sort. So I'd always known that I would do something related to non-tech. But for the longest of time, I used to think that consulting was something that was not for me. Because the thing is, I think the general idea about consulting for the longest of time, especially for me as a fresher or as a second year, was that consulting at the end of the day would be just glorified PPT making. And I was somebody who did not like slides, still do not like slides a lot. So I thought consulting would probably be something that I would not be interested in. So for the longest of time, I never really thought of consulting as something that I would want to do. Coming from economics, I think my first priority for a really long time was finance, and I had a few interns at related to data as well. So I thought I would kind of do something that is not too technical but data. But how I finally ended up in consulting was the fact that I was always very interested in just speaking and talking to people and just, the managerial side of things. So that is something that always interested me. And because I had a POR at DepSoc, I thought I would just give consulting a try. But even then, and this is during like after second year, but even then my priority had always been finance. But once I actually started properly prepping for finance, I realized that it was not something that really interested me. So then I started to do consulting more seriously. So once I did a few case solves. So again, a bit more background on me. Since I was always I'm very sure I would not be going into consulting person. I have never really done a case study in my life. Even now, like sitting in Bain, like with this internship, I have not done a single case study. My only experience with consulting prior to like interns is just like case solves that I've done for my CTC preparation. So to answer your question, so once I started doing a bit of like case solves for interviews per se as practice, I realized that I like the process of just the analytical thinking that you have to do, the kind of structured way in which you have to speak. So these were things that naturally interested me. And due to those reasons, I decided to like fully prepare for consulting. So to answer your question, bottom line was, I think I finally decided to prioritize consulting, I would say around 1.5 months before CDC.
Also, like one more thing that whenever I have talked to like anyone in campus about non-tech or particularly consulting, the majority of time the term used is dicey. This field is very dicey. So you should have something in backup while you are preparing for consulting. So what do you think? Like, do you have any like at any point of time you had self-doubt that do we have chosen the right thing or like that?
Yeah. Should I answer that question first and then like, yeah, sure. So this is also something that I heard a lot from my seniors when I was preparing for consult. So consult is a very dicey field for sure. But I think the main difference between like tech shortlist and like consult shortlist is that tech shortlists are very random. But once you get a CV shortlist, it's very easy to convert that into an offer. Consulting shortlists, on the other hand, are not random, right? If you have a good CV, if you have like good spikes, more or less you will get a shortlist. But it's very difficult to convert that shortlist into an offer in terms of the kind of questions that you get during the interview. So I think that is why the entire dicey process comes in. Insofar as getting a consulting interview shortlist is concerned, as long as you have a good CV, and I think a good consulting CV is very difficult to get in the first place. But once you have that, I don't think randomness comes in there. It's essentially just converting it into an offer. That process in itself is very random for sure. Sorry.
I think somewhat a different opinion. What I have heard is getting a consult shortlist is a bit difficult. And because you see, like, you have a lot of students, right? If you talk about KGP, I've seen, more than 600-700 people apply, right, for a single profile. So let's say in BCG, I think there were around more than 900 CVs which gone to them, right? So it's like out of that 900,000 pool, you will get a 20 to 30 student shortlist. So the major chunk will be filtered out in the first step itself, because there is no other step. You will fill the application, you will get the shortlist, and then there will be buddy rounds and this and that. So getting a shortlist is one of the major, filtering process. And after that, obviously the ratio would be, 6, 7 people will convert the internship at the end. That is a different aspect considering the company's requirement. So if you talk about that, how to get a consult CV shortlist, that is for sure is a different question overall, that how we can build our CV, how we can pursue it better. But in terms of this field is dicey or not, I think yes, there are uncertainties in the process, but because of the limited opportunities, I can say कि this is a bit difficult field. But if you are confident कि आपको यही करना है, then don't be satisfied with other things, right? So you have to try.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I more or less agree with Devansh that getting a consult shortlist is not that easy. It's what that I feel, because particularly I did not have a shortlist in Bain and BCG, and I only got shortlisted for McKinsey. So this itself is suggests that getting a shortlist is very sometimes, doesn't matter how good profile you have. Sometimes circumstances are such that you don't get a shortlist, or if you get a shortlist, then you might not be able to convert it, right? So I think if you are targeting non-tech as a field, then you should have multiple profiles, like your product management, consulting. So if you have 2 3 profiles ready, then you'll definitely land a good offer in at least one of them. So that's what my take is on whether consulting is a dicey field or not. So yeah, it's definitely a very dicey field.
Yeah, I would like to just quickly add on to something to like clarify. I mean, I definitely do agree to the fact that it's very difficult to get a consult shortlist. But the point I was trying to make is, if you have a spectacular CV in consult, then you have a sure shot at shortlist. But if you have a spectacular CV in tech, I don't really think it is the case that you would get a definite shortlist, because in my batch, at least, I know a lot of people who had really good CVs but did not end up getting like shortlists at tech companies. So yeah, while it is true that it's very difficult to get that good CV in consult as opposed to like a good CV in like tech, if you have a really good CV, I think it's like more sure of you getting a shortlist in consult as opposed to tech. That is a point that I was trying to make earlier.
Yeah. Thank you for shedding light on that.
Now moving forward to CDC process. Can you please walk us through the selection process for the consulting internship in your respective firms? Anshu, would you like to begin?
Yeah. So just the selection process, right? So for McKinsey, what they will do is they'll open up their CDC portals. You have to apply for your resumes, and after that there is a buddy round, which is non-evaluative. This is frankly non-evaluative. Unlike, I don't know about BCG and Bain whether they are evaluative or not, but for McKinsey it is truly non-evaluative, because I totally screwed up my buddy round and I was still able to convert the offer after my interviews. And in buddy round, they'll assign you 2 buddies, which might be KGP alumni as well, or maybe associates from who are working at McKinsey, basically. And after that, you can prepare for case interviews with them. They'll guide you through the entire process, what you can expect on the day of the interviews. And on the day of the interviews, I personally had 2 rounds which were taken by partners. So partners are the higher leadership positions in a particular consulting firm. So I had 2 rounds with them. Both were case rounds and a bit of HR discussion as well, like what I like doing, like mention our weakness, strengths, just some basic HR questions, and then I was able to convert that. So this is the process for McKinsey. So buddy round and 2 case interview rounds. This is what happened with me.
Yeah, so I
Parvati,
think this is more or less same in all the consulting firms. If we talk about BCG, McKinsey, Bain, that you have to first apply through CDC portal, right? And then there will be maybe some preliminary questionnaire from the company side, which is pretty much more or less same applying to CDC portal. Then after that, you will get these buddies assigned in all the 4 consulting firms, be it LEK, be it BCG, McKinsey, Bain. So all these 4 firms will assign you buddy rounds, and all of them are non-evaluative. So as Anshu was telling that, McKinsey has a non-evaluative buddy round. Yes, all these firms have non-evaluative buddy rounds. But just to add on to that, you can expect that whenever you are, presenting yourself to someone, you have to be very cautious about that. Because maybe sometimes your buddy might be, in a phase where he or she may be judging you, right? From not from the perspective that how will you behave in interviews or they will give you some score, but from the perspective that you are, showing the progress or not, right? Because in that process, obviously the buddies have that knowledge because they're already in the system that you will do good or not. So I think performing seriously in the buddy rounds is also important. You should not take them very lightly, but it will not have any impact on your final interviews, because if there is anything serious, they will surely tell you that you have to perform well beforehand, right? So ऐसा नहीं होता है कि वो आपको बोलेंगे बड़ी राउंड है वो आपको चुपचाप से जज कर लेंगे एंड रिजेक्ट कर देंगे, ऐसा कभी नहीं होगा. If there is anything serious, they will tell you in front कि यार this round might affect your overall progress, right? So that is the criteria for selection. I think Parvati could add something from the Bain's perspective.
Yeah, I mean, more or less it's the same across all consulting firms. So not really a lot of things to add here, except like one intricacy with respect to like their recruitment process and KGP. I think BCG releases their shortlist like 1 week or like 1.5 week before the other consulting firms. I remember getting my BCG buddies like 1.5 week before, like I got my other buddies. But other than that, like the process is more or less the same. In Bain, I had like 3 partner rounds, like before I got the offer. So more or less it's the same.
That was very insightful. Thank you very much.
Now coming on to our next question, like case preparation is central to cracking like consulting roles. So how did you start preparing for case interviews and which resources or books did you find the most helpful?
Yeah, so I will go first. I think there are a lot of resources out there. You can follow different case books, right? So starting from maybe some IIM's case books, you can start with IIM Ahmedabad. You can start with Day One. Day One is a very good book to uh, grasp your understanding, as well as it has very good cases. So I would not prefer to directly start with Day One. You can start with watching some videos on YouTube of Victor Chang, right? From there, you can get a basic idea of how frameworks are, how you should structure your approach. After that, obviously there are a lot of KGP resources. There are few PDFs that are there, in KGP from years. So kuch seniors ne, they have handwritten notes. So you can also refer to that. We can share it later. That is not a problem. And apart from that, I think there is this SRCC compendium. It is also good. And if you want to, watch some videos on YouTube, so there is this YouTube channel of Aditya Pillai or someone. I'm forgetting the surname, but I will maybe post it later. So there is this YouTube channel where he has solved a lot of cases in front of you, right? So that you can follow to maybe grasp your understanding. These are the few things that I personally followed and would also recommend.
Yeah, like more or less, I think Devansh has covered all the resources that I'd used. I think even within KGP, there is a drive link that is being circulated for consult. That drive link has all of these resources. So if you don't have each of these books per se, you can just ask your seniors for the consult drive link and like go through the books in that. Obviously, you don't have to do like each and every solve that is mentioned in the book. The book is just for a reference. Also, is this question just specific to resources and books? Is there like a separate question on how to prep and all? Or are we supposed to like answer this here?
Yeah, you can answer this here.
Yeah, so this is a broad question on how to prep in general, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So I think Devansh just covered like resources and books for the interview. I'll just talk about prep in general. So consulting prep at the end of the day is just essentially doing case solves. And if you guys don't know what a case solve is, as the name suggests, it says you're essentially solving a case, right? you'll be given a problem statement such as, let's say your client is so and so is facing 30% decrease in revenues. Like your client wants you to analyze why this is the case and suggest recommendation. So things like this. Just you'll be given a problem statement, and ideally within like 20-25 minutes, you're supposed to find a solution, right? That is how case solves are done. And for case interviews will essentially be like partners asking you to do case solves. So how you prep, first and foremost, is to essentially have a case group, right? Even if it's not a group, it's to have one other person to prep with. Because all of these resources, I think one of the major mistake that a lot of people do is that they just essentially just read through the content that is there. But if you just read through like the case examples that are given in these books, they won't really help you a lot, because in an ideal case interview, you're actually supposed to solve them real life, right? Sorry, real time, right? Which basically means that in order for you to maximize the way, maximize the output that you get during your prep time, you essentially have to do case solves real time, which means you essentially should have one other person to prep with. So ideally, so what I basically did was I found somebody to prep with, and I used to do, as I said, I started prepping. I started like treating consulting seriously around like one and a half months before CDC. So due to this reason, I took like my prep time very diligently. I used to do at least like one case every other day. And how you do these case solves is that first you act as the interviewer and give your friend the question, and your friend becomes the interviewee. Then you switch roles. Your friend becomes the interviewer, gives you the question. You become the interviewer, right? You take two separate solves and you do this. And then once this is done, you give each other feedback. So this is how like a broad like case solve would look like in terms of prep. And ideally, I think for interviews, you should definitely try and get it to be done within 20-25 minutes. But since like you guys are starting out, I think it will take probably between 40 to like 50 minutes to do a case solve initially, right? So broadly, this is how you do like case solves, or like this is how you prep for consulting. You just choose some case from a book, do a solve with your friend. But also while choosing people to work with, like somebody to like work with, what I would suggest is that you look for 3 metrics, right? In decreasing order of importance, I would say. One would be to find somebody who's like very determined, who's like as driven as you are. Because if you find somebody who may not be as consistent, it might not, I don't really think it would help your case, because you do need to stay motivated throughout the entire process. I mean, CDC process is tiring and demotivating as it is. I don't really think like having somebody who is as committed to the process as you are would definitely help. 2 is to find somebody who is good, right? Because you need to be able to learn from your partner. So having somebody who can give you effective feedback is important. So due to that reason, it is important for you to find somebody who is good. And finally, third, I would say find somebody who you enjoy prepping with, right? I personally had a very great time prepping with my case partner. So I would honestly like recommend you guys to find somebody like that to prep with. But also, once you are familiar with the entire case context, once you and your friend or once you and your group of friends have done a few solves, I would also suggest that you reach out to seniors who have already like gone through the CDC process, who are like interning or working at these companies, to do a few solves with you so that they can give you feedback as well, right? So this is also something that you can do. A few additional things that helped me was, one, I used to track my case solves. In the sense, I used to have an Excel sheet wherein I used to like record things like a type of case solved, time taken, feedback received, things that I should work on, etc. So this kind of essentially served as a repository of things that I could look back to when I wanted to like very quickly understand what it is that I should do to improve. So this tracking of my case solves was definitely something that really helped. Secondly was again a very like random piece of advice. If you are somebody like me who is very bad at numbers and visualizing and things of that sort, this might not be very helpful when it comes to doing case solves like guesstimates, right? So for example, in guesstimates, you might have to like estimate the number of, I don't know, dogs that can fit into Maggu. So if this is the case, you really need to have an idea of numbers, etc. So what I used to do was I used to like relate things to, I used to just randomly look up and relate things to things that I can see. For example, how big is an inch related to my thumb, or like things of that sort. If how long is a bus related, if you compare it with a car, how wide is it as like compared to a car, things of that sort. Again, random piece of advice. Also, one other thing that helped me was the fact that, see, for consulting like case solves, there are a few solves wherein you have to do a lot of calculations, and calculators are not allowed. So you do have to be like very fast and also accurate with your calculations. So something that I used to do was I used to like randomly, whenever I was free, I would just randomly search up for some, I don't know, percentage, like easy percentage calculation tricks or something, and just do those things as well. So that's also something that you guys can try. So broadly, this is how I prepped. Yeah.
Thank you for the great insights. Anshu, would like to.
Yeah, so Yeah, I'll add to the numbers wala point, right? So if you are targeting McKinsey, so you have to be very good with numbers. This is what I've seen in interviews as well. They ask you a lot of guesstimates, and even the profitability case that they asked me in the interviews was entirely based out of mathematics. So as Parvati mentioned, that you have to be very fluent with numbers when it comes to case solving and stuff. And rest of the things, I think Devansh and Parvati have already covered about the case groups and resources. So nothing from my side regarding that.
Yeah, just to add one thing, I think the sheet wala point is very good because I also followed the same thing that because when you are rigorously prepping for case interviews, it is always good to make a sheet where you will place all your cases maybe in one column. Then you can also mention ki let's say if you want to schedule 5 or 6 cases with your seniors, right? So you can just put their names as well. You can also add कि मुझे कब उनके साथ करना है. So it will also work as your calendar for the case interview prep, right? So this is a very good advice. You can add your feedback in very crisp manner. So let's say a lot of times when you start with, you will have a lot of problem with finding out the good preliminary questions. So I can still see my sheet key in the starting of 5 cases. I have written same thing again and again. Key do better on your preliminary questions that's in that. Right after that, I can see that there are things written key use good maybe some good consulting words, maybe use try to do calculation in this way or that way, right? So these are few things that you can always mention. And the second thing that these guys talk about regarding the data and how to triangulate the data within interviews. So yeah, calculation is not the endpoint that your interviewer is trying to judge. Let us be very clear here. If you are taking very few assumptions, let's say if you're so it depends on the cases, right? If it is properly a PNL case where your partner or interviewer has told you that I want the exact answer, that is a different aspect. But in most of the cases, I can say 90 or 95% of the cases, no one will ask you to find the exact number, right? The answers will be in order. So let's say your answer could be in the range of 10 to 19, then the range will change. So in the order of tens, right? So you can say कि 10 की power में answer change होगा, then it is a problem. Otherwise, it is not a problem. So always you can estimate the number. So let's say if you are calculating 18 into 20, so you can easily calculate 20 into 20. That will not create a lot of issue, right? But just check this with your interviewer first. कि I am doing this calculation in this way. Is it good or not? And 99 of the percent, 99% of the times they will say कि यार it is good, because no one is there to judge कि तुम्हें ये multiplication करना आता है कि नहीं. The only thing that they are trying to judge is are you good at triangulating the data or not. So let's say they have given you something in the start, and are you able to triangulate the data and find out some insight, right? तो वो चीज सबसे ज्यादा important है. So just for your perspective कि तुम इसको ऐसे सोच सकते हो. Yeah, that's it.
I think adding to Devansh, I think my experience was a bit different because my partner wanted that I give a specific answer, and when I kind of estimated the things in the interview, he sort of told me that he wants an exact answer. So it's always better to once clarify from the interviewer. I think I agree with Devansh that 95% of the times they'll be concerned only with your thought process and the structured thinking in the case, and not with the lot of mathematics. But it's always good to clarify with the interviewer. And yeah, you should practice that numbers wala cheez as well in especially in guesstimates, so that you get a sense of understanding that कि ये market इतना बड़ा इंडिया में. So bit of understanding regarding that is also adds to your advantage only, कि तुम्हें पता चल जाता है कि हाँ कि ये इंडस्ट्री का साइज, let's say in my case they gave me that to estimate the market size of e-pharmacy. So I had an idea of like what's the pharmacy ka market size in India. So I was able to articulate with the numbers that ki what I'm estimating is correct or wrong. So always good to practice such guesstimates as well.
Great insights. Also, I would like to ask, like, once I was talking to a senior, so I came across that during his interview for the company, the case interview he was asked was an unconventional kind of question. Like, for the majority of times, the case interview questions are like there are some sets of questions like the profitability case or like something, some kind that is pre-assumed. But what if an unconventional question comes up?
Yes, so I'll take that up. See, for unconventional questions, they are typically not concerned with what your final solution or what your root cause is. They are only concerned with how you are able to break down a particular problem into several buckets and analyze each of the buckets, and then maybe come up with a root cause or maybe a possible solution. So I think what is important in this unconventional cases is that you just try to have a very structured thinking. We call it MISI, right? Mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive. So this is the type of framework that you should follow in such cases. You don't have to be like typically in consulting buzzwords we say that you have to be MISI in your thinking, MISI. So that's what MISI is all about. That you have to cover each and every aspect collectively, ensuring that you have taken each and everything into account. So for unconventional cases, that is the only thing which is important, your structured thinking and your MISI framework. And nothing apart from that is taken into account while the interviewer is evaluating you.
Yeah, I do agree to that. I would just like to add something else. So, the fact that like for internships, at least at the CDC intern level, unconventional cases are more or less not asked. These cases are usually asked at the placement level. So I don't think you guys should worry a lot about being asked an unconventional case, because this is usually not the norm at the like intern level, right? At our level, the kind of cases that are usually very popular are guesstimates, profit and loss. And so basically, I was asked a lot of growth cases, which is unusual. Like growth cases are also like types of cases that are reserved for placements, but I was asked most of my interview rounds were like growth cases. So you cannot really say, but the thing is, the chances of you actually getting an unconventional case when at like CDC intern level is very unlikely. But if at all you do get something, I mean, what Anshul's answered, like Anshul's answered broadly covers what you should do in that case.
Vansh, would you like to add?
Yeah, so I will tell you something not similar to these guys, because every time I have given more than 10 like not more than 10 but around 10 interviews in all the four consulting firms, and my experience is like 60% of the times the cases that were asked was unconventional, right? So I think in all the cohorts, maybe if there are 100 interviews going on in a day, there will be 10 people who will be asked unconventional cases, right? And that will be totally random. So उन 10 में कोई भी हो सकता है. So ऐसा नहीं हमें समझना चाहिए कि हमें पूछा नहीं जाएगा, because this is very rare, but you could be the odd one out on that day. So you should not worry about it as such, but I can tell you how you should approach, because in my cases, in the start I was not very prepared here how to answer the unconventional cases, but at the end with my BCG's experience twice, I can say you ki how to answer that, right? तो यार मेरे से जो सेकंड वाला मेरा टाइम था उसमें यही पूछ लिया था इन द फर्स्ट केस इटसेल्फ कि लेट्स नॉट डू अ केस टुडे, आई नो अ लॉट ऑफ केसेस, लेट्स जस्ट डू अ पजल, राइट? So the principal asked me, not a very conventional puzzle. He given me some brain teaser, right? And he just told me कि इसको तुम structure करके मुझे answer बता दो, then you are going into the next round, otherwise टाटा बाय बाय. So sometimes a person who is taking the interviewer might be in a very funny mood. He just want you to be calm. He just want you to be the person who can handle things and not just started yelling here and there कि मुझसे नहीं होगा, ये क्या पूछ लिया, this is not the case कि जो आप पूछ सकते हो, right? So sometimes they want you कि तुम अपना temperament तोड़ो, but that is the time you should understand कि यार you will be judged at a very very undergraduate level, right? These people are already 10, 20 years ahead of you. So let's say even if a PL is coming to take interview, they will be of at least 27, 28, or mostly in the range of 30. So वो आपसे 10 साल experience में ज़्यादा हैं, right? So वो आपसे ये expect ही नहीं करेंगे कि you should know everything, you should answer it in the confident way or whatever, right? So during your preparation, you should understand कि how to make structures. तो जैसे जितनी भी हम केस बुक्स पढ़ते हैं, ओवर द टाइम यू विल अंडरस्टैंड कि हाउ टू मेक अ स्ट्रक्चर, राइट? एंड उस हिसाब से आप उस सिनेरियोस को अप्रोच कर सकते हो. सो अ वेरी गुड थिंग टू स्टार्ट स्ट्रक्चरिंग इज मीसी अप्रोच, ठीक है? सो इन द मीसी अप्रोच एज वेल, अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल विल टेल यू कि ये तीन चार तरीके होते हैं. I think I watched a video in which he told that what are the 4 or 5 ways to break the problem into MECE structure. But the most liked one is कि आप उसको mathematically break करो, right? कि you just apply negation rule to the approach. कि let's say if there are different kind of benefits, I am breaking it into educational benefits and non-educational benefits, right? So one is let's say set A, then another will be universe minus A, right? So इस type से जब आप तोड़ते हो किसी भी problem को तो कुछ miss ही नहीं हो सकता, because this is the most messy approach that could be possible. You have just broken down the problem into part A and total minus part A, right? So I think इस तरह से you can start thinking, you can start building your structure की how to think, how to break the problems, right? And that was the way just say, that question got solved. So unconventional cases नहीं पूछे जाएंगे. I am not in this favor because I am always that person जिससे पूछा जाता है, ठीक है. और unconventional cases deal नहीं होते. I cannot say that because deal कर सकते हो with a very calm, with decent temperament. It's just that कि if सामने वाला बंदा तुम्हें तोड़ना चाहता है, just don't fall in that trap. Just be confident. नहीं आ रहा, you can say कि just say with a little more smile कि I was not expecting this. I was preparing for a lot of cases, but I'm glad that you have chosen me for this brain teaser, right? So you can, if you're starting with that enthusiasm, they will understand कि यार ठीक है, he's not afraid of the problems. He's just trying to take more hints from me, right? So I have directly asked कि आप मुझे hint दो. Let's play it in the puzzle mode only. मैंने उनको बोला कि आप मुझे hints देते जाइए. As soon as I am getting that hint and I am able to proceed to the next level, you give me hint 2, right? तो मैंने ये उनके साथ सेट कर लिया कि आप मुझे hint 1 दो तभी मैं स्टार्ट करूंगा. फिर आप जैसे ही मैं किसी एक लेट्स से मैं किसी एक लैंडमार्क पे पहुंचा, आप मुझे hint 2 दे देना, right? Because it's a puzzle. He was also trying to just do the fun. So that's how it eventually got solved. He helped me a lot because he was not expecting कि solve हो भी जाएगा कि नहीं, right? So this is one of the experiences that you can relate to.
Yeah, I think adding to Devansh, like this is very important skill in interviews specifically. If you're stuck in some problem, so you should take continuous hints from your interviewer as well, because once you are stuck and you just ramble things around, इधर उधर की बातें करने लग गए, this is a very negative impression from the interviewer's perspective. So you should always try to take up hints. You should try to establish a conversation with him or her. So that is very important in consulting interviews as well. If you try to establish a conversation, you try to take constant hints, you try to tell you about your approach, that this is what you are thinking. Am I doing correct? What do you think? So this type of questions are also very welcomed in consulting interviews. No one is like going to scold you like why you should know this, you should know that. They also know that you are just a 21-year-old guy. So they'll not mind much.
Thank you for the detailed answer. Now, moving on to our next question. So, in consulting interviews, communication and structured thinking are key. Like, what are some ways students can build and showcase these skills?
I think I'll take that up. I think typically in communication, what I generally do is I follow this particular framework called as RAC, like result, action, context. So when you're typically talking to higher leadership, people who are in senior management positions, so you typically follow this type of framework where you tell about what you like from a CV point of view also. This is very important. So to establish a conversation, what you can do is you can tell about that. Let's say I did an internship in some firm and I optimized their cost by 10%. So how you should start conversation, you should establish a conversation is that like I optimized the cost by 10% by doing this in their dash 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 department. So this is how you should typically communicate with higher management. This is also known as top-down communication, which consulting firms generally use. So this is how I generally used to communicate. And what was the second question?
It was like that. What are some ways students can build and showcase these skills?
I think the best way to build that is that you establish your case group, you continuously give feedbacks to each other, and you constantly practice a lot of cases, and that is very important. And I think communication in general, you'll learn when you give multiple mock interviews as well, which is also very important for consulting firms. So this is the framework, general framework that you should usually follow. There is no hardcore criteria that yeah ये तो करना ही करना है, but this is what generally people do.
Yeah, I think the question. Sorry, Parvati.
No, it's fine, Devansh. You go ahead. I'll go next.
So see, the question about communication, a lot of people misunderstand it, and they will try to, be fluent in English. See, fluency is important. I'm not disagreeing to that. But I think communication is more that how you can communicate what you wanted to do. So let's say if मुझे कुछ एक particular चीज communicate करनी थी, मैं क्या पहुंचा पाया हूँ कि नहीं? Because let's say if you अगर मेरे सामने आज सारे French लोग बैठे होते हैं, and if I was just telling them in Hindi or English, maybe मैं communicate ही नहीं कर पाता, even though I'm very fluent in English or Hindi, right? So we should not misunderstood communication with language fluency, first of all. And second, like as Anshu told, uh, जो framework he was telling, it is also popularly known as STAR framework. I think most of the McKinsey people have different terminologies, so that's why he's using something else. But I think STAR framework is situation, task, action, result, and how you can practice it. I think it is very important to structure your experience in star framework. So just to give you an example, star framework is nothing. So everything that you do, you can explain it in star framework. So let's say the situation was that there is a lot of food wastage in India, and there is some company who want to reduce it, right? So this is the overall situation that in some place there is a lot of food wastage. What is the task? The task is to reduce food wastage in India. So you will just tell ki, see, this is the situation, this was the task, and for mitigating this, I have done these 4 things, 1, 2, 3, 4, and this was the result. So the outcome was that after doing the analysis, after doing the preliminary research, talking to experts and different stakeholders, we come to a point that food wastage was because of the supply chain issues and optimization issues in India. So for that, we have done X, Y, and Z things, and this is the impact, right? So this is how you tell your answer. ये बहुत ही सिंपल सी चीज है जो तुम अपने एक्सपीरियंसेस में अप्लाई कर सकते हो while preparing. ठीक है, तो कोई भी चीज जो तुमने लाइफ में करी है, just put this in this bucket and उसको just frame कर लो एक बार, right? This is the best way to communicate and this is the best way to structure. I think इससे ज्यादा I don't think कि इसमें कुछ है. Yeah, Parvati, go on.
Yeah, I think both of you guys have like already covered like general communication tips and all, but something specific that helped me was the fact that, especially when you do solves in like a professional setting, having some sort of like specific jargon information can like make you come across as somebody who has business acumen, right? Which is to say, for example, if you're solving some case that is related to, let's say, the semiconductor industry, instead of simply saying, oh, like electronic companies or whatever, if you know the jargon for like OEMs, which is other electronic manufacturers, etc., it just shows to the interviewer that you're somebody who knows what is happening generally in various industries. So it's very difficult, I know, to get like these specific nuances in various industries, right? So something that I used to do to help me develop jargon that is specific to different industries so that I come off as somebody who is smart was that each time I used to do like a solve that was particular to a certain industry, I used to, once that solve was done, once I used to track it in my Excel sheet, I used to go on ChatGPT, ask ChatGPT to give me a set of like jargon that I can generally use for such type of industries. And then I used to log those jargons. So like broadly, this is something that like helped me improve in a more professional way and give answers in a more like, a business setting kind of, give a more like professional business setting, more smart answers per se. So I think like both Anshul and Devansh have covered like general communication skills, I think, which can be developed if you just keep talking and start doing solves. All of these answer first star approaches are like very intimidating to like when you hear it like first, because it's not very intuitive for normal human beings to communicate like that. But yeah, once you start doing like cases, I think it's something that you will pick up. But yeah, this tip that I gave is just something very specific that helped me be more professional in the way that I communicate.
So as a follow-up, were there any particular feedback points you got that may be the problem with many aspirants others?
Sorry, I'm not sure. I don't think I got that question clearly. Can you please rephrase?
Okay, so were there any particular feedback points which you got that may be the problem with other aspirants too, related to communication and the structured thinking?
Yeah, so this was something that I used. This feedback was something that I used to get a lot. Like my answers used to be vague. It was not very specific to the industry. So this is obviously like the cherry on top, right? This is not something that you do right from itself. Like once you do a few case solves, once you get like decent at it, there's something that you can do to polish the way that you're doing solves. So this was something that I got from my seniors as something that I can do, like something that I should work on. And this was just a personal way that I found to like just improve this. So yeah, this was essentially, but this is not like a general mistake that a lot of people do, because this is a very like polishing, like refining the framework kind of advice.
So great. That was definitely very detailed. The next question we have, a common concern is CGPA. How important is it in shortlisting for consulting roles? Are there things that can compensate for relatively lower CGPA? So, Parvati, would you go first?
Right. So I will have to take a second to think about this question. So I personally believe that CG is important for consulting, because I know people who had spectacular CVs otherwise, but did not end up getting shortlists at certain companies because they had some problems with CG. So I do think that CG is important. But at the same time, I do know people who had like certain problems with like their CG, but also ended up getting shortlists at like good firms because they had like internship experiences at a very like specific industry that this company focus on. So things like that also happens. But I think the general trend is to say that CG is definitely important in consulting. But yeah, to answer the second part of your question, like what compensates for a bad CG, I would definitely say spectacular PORs, spectacular like extracurriculars. But at the end of the day, I do think that CG is definitely important for consulting. But I honestly believe that, but I don't, I think like Anshul and Devan should definitely like add on to this.
Yeah, I think CG is one of the most important part of your CV because what consulting firm primarily tries to derive from your CG is that जो चीज तुम कर रहे हो एक्चुअली में राइट जिसमें तुम अपने 4 साल दे रहे हो उसमें तुम कितना परफॉर्म कर रहे हो नो मैटर तुम्हें कितना भी पसंद ना हो राइट नो मैटर यू डोंट लाइक योर डिपार्टमेंट नो मैटर यू आर वेरी वेरी न्यू टू योर डिपार्टमेंट बट इन इवन इन दो सिनेरियोस तुम कितना परफॉर्म कर सकते हो राइट एंड उन्होंने उसी हिसाब से उसका बेंचमार्क मोर और लेस 80% रखा है कि इवन इफ यू आर नियरर टू 80% इट इज फाइन फॉर देम राइट सो आई थिंक फॉर फ्रॉम माई परस्पेक्टिव दे आर ट्राइंग टू जज की if you are given some new situation, some very very traditional, non-traditional, non-conventional situation, तो उसमें आप कैसे perform करोगे? I think somewhat they are trying to derive this from your CGPA. I may be wrong because this is very subjective opinion, but यार वो है कि तुम 8 के आसपास CG रखोगे then you have a good shot and उससे नीचे you should have a very very good मतलब CV बहुत ही ज्यादा outstanding होनी चाहिए तो you can get a shortlist. And I think McKinsey focuses more on what out of the box you have done. So there are different consulting firms with different perspectives. So SNE ki you will not have a shot.
So particularly if I talk about McKinsey काफी priority देता है CG को, I think, है ना? Because from past 2 years, like they have started intern recruitment from last to last year only. So we are the second cohort. But they give a lot of priority to high CGP people because I have seen that कि कुछ लोगों का they are receiving shortlist only in McKinsey and not in Bain BCG because McKinsey is prioritizing CG up maybe above PORs and some other things. So it's just a subjective question as well, like which firm you are targeting, which firm you are talking about. But in general, you should have a 8+ CG. That's the minimum criteria you should definitely have. And in case of low CG, you should definitely try to compensate it with good internships, good PORs. That is always there. But I think 8 is the benchmark that you should strictly follow because below 8, it often gets quite difficult to even receive a shortlist in any of the consulting firms, no matter how good CV you have. So that's the criteria you should in general follow for consulting firms.
So that explains CGPA's role very well. Thank you very much.
So, like before moving on to our next question, I would just like to ask that if a person A has a CG of around 8, but has a great CV spikes through like case studies and multiple different things, like have done great internships before the CDC. And there's a second person whose CG is around 9 or 9 plus, but his 3 CDC internships and other PORs are not that good. So between these person A and B, which has a more probability of getting shortlisted?
I think A because they look for overall CV, right? They don't just look for CGPA, right? In my case as well, I had a 9+ CG, but I also had good internships, right? So it's not that if you have a 9 plus CG, then you don't need to do anything. It's also not like that. So I think a person has the more probability because he has a overall good CV. That's what my understanding is.
But like just to answer, just to like add on to that, I don't really think we should worry about all of this, right? Because if we're talking about the current batch, even if you have a very bad CG, very honestly speaking, you don't really have the time to improve it right now, right? Your CDC is going to start very soon. So if at all you do have a problematic CG, I don't really think you should worry about it, or you should like try and map the different scenarios in which you can get a shortlist. What you can ideally do during this time is to probably try to build like other parts of your CV, which would even, I don't think there's probably no time to get a good POR as well, but probably what you can do instead is maybe to like look for some good brand interns, etc. Right? So if you have like a problematic CG as of now, I would say just stop worrying about it, man. I mean, if it happens, it happens, right? If you get a shortlist, you get a shortlist, or like you can try for placements. But yeah, broadly this is it. So don't worry about. But if you are as a first year like listening to this, just and then for you guys, obviously there is time to work on your CG, etc. Right? Even if you have like a bad CG, good CG, etc. I would say just work on your CG, dude. I mean, like good CG is always, I would always say good CG definitely solves most of your problems. So try and like prioritize academics when you can. For the other batch, if you have a problematic CG, don't worry about it as of now. You still have like 1 year to like work on it and get better shots at placements. If at all you do think that having a good CG is important. So yeah.
So thank you for that.
Evans, would you like to say something about?
Yeah, I think just the similar point. Don't waste your energy in mapping these scenarios. Just waste this energy to map your, maybe profile. Try to explore more. Try to do some good internships. And देखो CGs is something जिसका तुम्हें starting से थोड़ा ध्यान रखना चाहिए. Maybe at some point of time in a particular semester or something, you can, you know, lose out on something. That is fine. So एक आध semester is chill, but उसके बाद you have time to again pick up your academics और उसको बढ़ा सकते हो. Because after third year, I think you can increase your CV. So till placements 8 करी जा सकती है. ऐसा कुछ नहीं है अगर तुमने 7.5 के आसपास रखी है starting में. But थोड़ा सा seriously you have to target, तभी हो पाएगा.
Thank you. So now moving on to our next question, that is actually based on this only. Now let's talk about building a strong CV for consulting. Like, what's your opinion on a perfect CV for this domain?
I think what typically happens in a consulting CV, they start counting spikes from top of your CV. So if you have a good CG, that is a spike. If you have internships in 2-3 different brands and industries with good companies, that is also a spike. Your position of responsibilities that you have carried in your KGP life, that is also a spike. Your inter-IT experiences, sometimes they are also counted as a spike. The different case competitions you participate in is also a spike. And your extracurricular involvement in KGP is also one of the things that they look up to. So if you have if you have 3 to 4 spikes in your CV, then it's in general notion that it is an ideal CV for consulting. So you should try to gain those 3 to 4 to 5 spikes. You should in general try to maximize your spikes in your resume so that you get you have a higher probability of having a shortlist in any of the firm. That's what my understanding is.
Yeah, right. So on this again, I think anybody would tell you that a good consulting CV has spikes, but like idealistically, like you don't really have a lot of time to make a lot of, if at all you don't have a lot of spikes already, there's realistically not a lot of time to build those spikes as of now, right? You can't, like as I mentioned, you can't really work on your CG, you can't really work on your POR. So those sections are already fixed as of now. So if at all you do feel like you have to improve on your CG in terms of getting spikes, I think the only ways would be one, to get proper like brand interns, etc., so that your internship or like get an FTP, etc., so that your internship has a spike, or probably do some crazy extracurricular activities so that your extracurriculars also has a spike. This is probably the only 2 sections in which you can realistically like work on in the next few weeks. Right. So, so I don't, other than this, I don't really think this is the time to think about how you can like set that foundation. In terms of presenting what you have, I think one key feedback that I used to get was the fact that to not let like the consult CV be empty, which is to say, if you start like a sentence, so what seniors used to tell me was that if you start a sentence, you should probably end that sentence all the way at the other end, right? Consulting CVs should be filled top to bottom, left to right. So you should not ideally be leaving any spaces in consulting CVs. But other than this, I think what you should do, especially for not just for consulting, like for any other role, is to get your CV reviewed by multiple people, right? So the ERP CV portal will have multiple deadline extensions. I believe last time we got like around 1 month, if I'm not wrong, to like finally submit our CV. So I think probably this will also happen this time, right? I think a lot of people just be smart towards the end saying that, oh, like lots of time, etc., etc. But I think this is a very like, I do think this many like weeks or whatever is important to actually build a strong CV, right? The kind of changes that my CV underwent because I sent it for like multiple rounds of review was like insane. My before and after that my CV had was like totally crazy. So as soon as the CV portal opens, I would say that you guys should try and get the first draft done so that you can start sending it out to like seniors. So who do you send it to? Obviously, like people who have gone through the CDC process, who knows how to like what a good CV is, etc. Right? So you send out to them. How do you send it out? You probably like ideally make it into a Google Doc, send it out to them, give editing access. They'll put in comments, right? So this is how you send your CVs out for reviews. And so the reason I asked you to do this as soon as possible, as soon as the CV portal opens, is because like just implementing those comments in itself will take like 2 to 3 days because the CV portal, ERP portal sucks. So any changes that you want to make will take a lot of time. So it is absolutely important that you guys make use of this CV building time that ERP gives you with all the extensions, etc. So something that really worked for me was just me sending my CV out for like multiple rounds of review. So bottom line is, don't really worry about building a strong CV because I like honestly I believe we are past that. I think you should just work on refining what you already have. And the best way to do that would be to send it for review to like multiple seniors.
Yeah, so I will just summarize what these guys have told you and maybe add few points. So I think starting with your spikes wala question. So yes, there are different kinds of spikes in consult CVs, right? So you should broadly categorize these spikes into maybe these below categories. One is your academics, which contains your CG and maybe percentages of 10th, 12th. वो सबकी अच्छी होती है. And then उसके बाद the first section is your awards and achievements, right? So in awards and achievements, maybe if you have very good competition, which you were maybe a national finalist or something, you have done something extra, tremendously well in extracurricular, so you can put it in your awards and achievement section. Or there are here and there, few things that you can put in your awards and achievement section. So that will cover pretty much about the first section. Then probably you will put internship or this project section, or else the rules and this POR section, right? So if you have strong POR, so I would prefer usko upar rakho. Otherwise, if you have good brand intent, then usko upar rakho, right? So always see कि जैसे अंशु ने बोला था, from top to bottom they will review your CV, right? तो उस हिसाब से तुम अपनी चीजें जिस हिसाब से align कर सकते हो, just do that. उसके बाद I think good PORs you can put it. Just उसमें भी तुम्हें हर level डालने की जरूरत नहीं है. Like for a particular society club, just put one POR, right? ऐसा नहीं कि तुम second year का भी डाल रहे हो, third year का भी डाल रहे हो. That doesn't make sense. फिर तुम्हारा जो एक्स्ट्रा करिकुलर सेक्शन है, यू कैन जस्ट पुट व्हाटएवर यू हैव डन गुड इन एक्स्ट्रा करिकुलर. सो दिस इज प्रीटी मच कि तुम सीवी का स्ट्रक्चर कैसा दिखेगा. फॉर ईच पॉइंटर यू कैन फॉलो दिस कॉन्सेप्ट कि यू विल स्टार्ट विद द action words with the impact in the start, maybe the numbers in the very start, that have reduced 10% food wastage, blah blah, right? And then you can tell how you have done that. So in a very short wordings, you can tell key what methods you have applied, right? By data implementation, by this, by doing that, you have achieved that result. So start with the action word, then your impact, then comes your how, like whatever you have done to achieve that. So this is the general methodology which you can follow in your POR section, in your projects and internship section. Apart from that, I think this is pretty much for your CV. Is there anything else that you have asked in this question?
Yes.
Is there anything else that you want me to cover in this section?
No. Yeah, I want to ask, but before that, I would just like to ask Parvati that, as you mentioned, like getting your CV reviewed by your seniors, getting comments from them. So, how do you think that how connections are important while like preparing for consulting roles?
I mean, on two levels, right? Right. So with respect to CV reviewing, I mean, connections definitely help. If you know some senior, it's easier for you to ping them and say, hi, I'm like trying to apply for consult. Can you please take a look at the CV? This interaction is way easier if you know them beforehand. But also, I think KGP seniors are like nice people. If you just like randomly ping somebody that you don't know, saying that I want to apply for so and so company, and I heard that, or I found out that you're working for this company, can you please review my CV? I'm pretty sure any senior will be more than happy to like do that for you. So with respect to like getting your CV reviewed, I don't really think connections are like extremely important. You just need to have that in you to take that initiative to send it out to like multiple seniors to get it reviewed, right? And also you should know who is working where or like who is doing what, so that you know like who to send your CVs off to, right? For example, if you have a finance CV, suppose you send it to seniors who have done like finance interns, consult for consult interns, so you should know who to send it to. I think beyond that, I don't think connections really matter. You can like randomly ping people, like properly introducing yourself and telling why you've pinged them. I think they'll be more than happy to help. But in terms of other things that I mentioned, right? For example, maybe like doing case solves with you, or like giving you feedbacks, etc. Again, I think it's possible to like randomly ping seniors asking for help, and they'll be more than happy to help you if they are free. But obviously connections do help, right? If you know somebody beforehand, it's obviously very easy. It's easier for you to approach them, and it's also easier for them to like just have that in them to set time apart to help you. Which is to say, if somebody that I know approaches me telling me that, oh look, I need this work, can you please help me, I'll be more willing to help them as opposed to somebody that I don't really know, right? Which is not to say I would not that help that person, but I hope you get the point. So connections are important, but that doesn't mean that you wouldn't get help if you don't ask for help. But also, once you've gotten shortlist, I think you can also like ping seniors who are already like in that company, telling them that you have a shortlist in this company. What this does is just lets them know that you are like trying for this company, etc. Right? Maybe or maybe not, they'll put in a word for you. I'm not very sure. It will depend on them. But yeah, there's also something that you can do. So to answer your questions, definitely like connections do help, as like everybody intuitively can infer. But if at all you do need help, I'm pretty sure if you ask for it, anybody like people will be more than willing to help.
Yeah, just to add on the review part, I think you can follow
Sorry
this.
to sorry to interrupt. I would just like to add that also with this connections part, do you think that having visibility on like some platforms like LinkedIn would also help you along with?
Right. So I was not at all visible. I was a very invisible person on LinkedIn. I did not actively post. I don't think even now my LinkedIn is updated, which I don't think is a very good practice. I'm not very sure, but I don't really think it matters. Maybe Anshul and like Devansh has like differing opinions. I don't know, but I personally don't think it's important to be like visible in like LinkedIn to get seniors to review your CV or like ask help for like consult interviews, etc. But yeah, if you want to be visible, you can be visible. That's not a prerequisite to get help. So I hope that answers your question. You just, in order to get help, you just have to ask for help, right? I think it's just as simple as that.
Yeah, I think these are some wrong presumptions that are popular in KGP. Ki you have to be active on LinkedIn, you have to be popular, you have to be this and that for getting a shortlist. So you will always find, whenever you will look at the shortlist pool, you can always segregate it into different kinds of people, right? You can segregate it into introvert and extrovert people. In extrovert people, you will always find some famous, popular person or a person who is very active on LinkedIn. So there are both extremes. You will get the uh, at both the levels you will get all kinds of people in that shortlist. So ऐसा कभी नहीं होगा कि if you are not active on LinkedIn you will not get the shortlist. This is a very wrong assumption to make. And just to add on very small point on review part, you can follow a 3-level structure. So you can start with your batchmates. So first always review your CV from your batchmates, maybe 2 or 3 are enough. Then you can send the CV to your immediate seniors. So by immediate seniors I mean who are just maybe going to that company or get the who have already gotten the offer, right? So this is the immediate seniors level where you can review your CV. Again, maybe 3 or 4 is enough. Then the advanced level. So at advanced level, I'm considering people who are already in the industry, maybe 4 or 5 years, who are very senior to you, and who might be the person who could review your CV in the companies. Might not be your CV, but someone else's CV in the same structure, right? बिकॉज इन जनरल कंसल्ट कंपनीज जो C2 लेवल के लोग होते हैं वही सीवीज रिव्यू करता है देन इट गोज टू पीएल देन इट गोज टू पार्टनर राइट तो एट दैट लेवल तुम किसी 2-3 लोगों को भेज सकते हो दैट इज नॉट एन इशू एंड आई थिंक KGP seniors at that level are still too active to give you the feedback. I can tell you this honestly. Even if you send a CV to a person who is 4 or 5 years senior to you, they will for sure review the CV in a very, very exhaustive way and will send you the comments. Okay. So this 3-level structure is very important so that you are not taking very, foolish kind of edits to a person who is very, who don't have much time, right? तो जो तुम्हारे इंडेंटेशन एरर्स हैं, जो तुम्हारे स्पेलिंग मिस्टेक्स हैं, वो तुम लेवल 1 पे ही क्लियर कर दो. फिर तुम्हारा जो थोड़ा फॉर्मेटिंग लेवल मिस्टेक्स है और जो तुम्हारे स्ट्रक्चरिंग मिस्टेक्स हैं वो लेवल 2 पे क्लियर हो जाए. एंड अगर तुम्हारा कुछ बहुत ज्यादा फट रहा है सीवी में, वो लेवल 3 पे क्लियर हो जाए. So I think this is the best way to review your CV. Yeah, we can move forward.
Yeah, I just would like to add something very quickly. I think something else that helped me during like the CV building process was that I used to refer to a lot of seniors ka CV in like specific profiles. Before I started building my CV in consult, I read a lot of like consult CVs of seniors who were placed in different companies to know how they had like phrased their CVs, to just know the kind of framing that's used in sentences, the kind of way in which like they have like structured the work that they've done in interns, etc. So I think this is like helpful as well. So that's also something that I would recommend you guys to do.
Anshu, would you like to add something?
Yeah, I think one important thing which people often neglect is that deadline काफी दूर होता है CDC मतलब CV बनाने का, so they start ignoring CV वाला part. So the day CV portal opens, you should try to make your first draft ready very quickly, because in consulting CV ही सब कुछ है तुम्हारी. You should remember that thing, right? You don't have to appear for some test or something. So you should take your CV very seriously. You should not leave it for end moment वाला hustle, right? नहीं तो फिर you won't be able to get it reviewed from multiple people, right? As Devansh mentioned that you should follow that 3-level structure. So वो तुम structure follow ही नहीं कर पाओगे if you don't get your drafts ready quickly. So one important thing is you should try to make your CV as soon as possible and get your first draft ready very quickly, and then you can maybe amend, and you can make it better.
Right. Like also, I would like to ask that how important are case study competitions, like the corporate and the non-corporate one, from the CV perspective? Like also, as Devansh, you had appeared in Blue Centers and Inside IdeaCon. So what's your take on case study competitions and how helpful they are from the point of view of both learning and giving a spike to your CV?
Yeah, personally, I do feel that, it is a very, very great opportunity when you see, Unstop as a platform. You can get all the competitions listed out there. You can just go over it, just select few competitions from the very start. So whenever you are, let's say you are in your first year, तो तुम वहीं से start कर सकते हो. You can start with IIM के competitions, different IITs के competition, just to get that exposure, and maybe उसमें कुछ तुम्हें अगर national finalist you are becoming, so you will also get, sponsored trips, this and that. So it is a very good way to start your, a corporate exposure in a sense. You are not, you don't have to do anything extra. You just need to appear in a competition, right? And if you are getting maybe your internship or placement out of that, that is a very good, what I can say, that is a very good deal, right? कि तुम इतना effort यहाँ पे लगाओगे, you are just putting out everything there. You are getting your prize money as well as your internship and placement. So this new wave of hiring is just, transforming towards PPI's model. So I believe that in next 5-10 years, this concept of getting internship or placements from colleges will for sure vanish, and people will, because companies are moving towards taking people directly through these competitions, or maybe some exposure, maybe some internship exposure. At least placement wala part to will dhire dhire will vanish, right? Because this is the concept which is followed by a lot of Western companies, and these global companies generally hire from KGP as well, right? So it is very, very good opportunity for you guys right now to get involved in these competitions. Try out different competitions of different levels and have at least 1 or 2 experiences. This is not very much. This is not a must to have activity. This is a good to have activity, right? So yeah.
Yeah, I think
So-
I'll add to that. What? Yeah,
No,
Bharat, you
no,
would like
go
to go
ahead.
first?
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah,
Please go
yeah.
ahead.
So what happens is when you participate in this case competitions, you actually develop a very good understanding of how to think structuredly, how to be, very clear in your thoughts. That is very important with this case competitions that they teach you. So I think participating in at least 3 to 4 case competition. I think summers are going on. There might be a lot of opportunities on Unstop as well. You can maybe just search that and participate in some or the other opportunities, because the kind of storytelling that a case competition teaches you, the kind of decks that you make, that sort of gives you a very good understanding of how you can, structure your thoughts, process your thoughts, have immediate answers. There's a questionnaire round in this case competition as well if you go to final round, right? So typically you have to answer them. So that will eventually teach you a lot of things. So I think that is why participating in case competitions is very good to have in your CV.
Right. So I think I'm the person on the other end of the spectrum here, because I have not done, as I already mentioned at the beginning, I have not done any case competitions. Even after like my, even after I got the offer, I've not done any case studies. So as both of them before me mentioned, I think it's definitely not a necessity. I don't think you should do case study competitions just because you can have something on your, like just because you feel like it is a prerequisite for a shortlist, because I think I'm living proof that that is not the case. But yeah, if you want to do it for fun, if you want to do it as a learning experience, then I think sure, why not? If you have the time, sure, why not? But I think to answer your question, I don't really think it's like a prerequisite or like it's a necessity for getting a consult shortlist.
I definitely added clarity. Thank you for that.
Okay, so let's move on to the one of the most important question. Okay. So, what do you think? How important pre-CDC internships are? Like, what should like which type of job or the interview job a student should target? Which like let me repeat. What's your stance on pre-CDC internships? Are they important or not? Like which role should a student target of as an intern before CDC, like in filling the CDC or
Yeah, I think I got your question. You are trying to ask what should be the experiences in terms of internships and corporate or maybe startup world, right?
yes.
So I think the kind of roles that consulting would, so again telling you like it is not very mandatory to do everything in strategy product to get a consult shortlist. If I have seen a lot of people having a Microsoft internship and appearing in placement and getting a shortlist, right? So obviously it will be different in internship and placement season. But as we are talking particularly about internship season, it is good to have that you should do the internships in non-tech domains per se. So let's say maybe you are doing a strategy intern. Nowadays there is this popular term called chief of staff. So maybe you can do maybe a chief of staff internship, or maybe you are an intern of a chief of staff to a good company, right? So these kind of roles are also very popular right now. And then you can do a product management internship. You can do a research internship in a very good university, right? Or what else? Maybe you can do some data analytics internship. So it also adds to your more or less your insights, how you can apply strategy there, maybe Excel skills. So these all these kind of internships will give you a good exposure of the industry as well. And obviously you can try interning at a very nascent level startups, but having very good exposure. So there are two phases of internships. One, when you are interning at a very good brand, very good company, right? So the growth will be different in both these scenarios. Or other side, you are interning at a very nascent stage startup and building it from scratch, right? Both of them will have equal importance, I will tell you. The way in which you present your work is also important, and it should not be fake. Yeah, a lot of times I have seen people just put something for their startup wala part. Entrepreneurial experience is important, but it is never a must to have. And last year, though, I think all the consult firm had flagged this issue that people had fake experiences in their entrepreneurial experience, right? And it is very easy to catch. See, तुम लोग appear कर रहे हो, the people who are reviewing are already in the space in for last 5-6 years or 10 years. So they know कि क्या झूठ है क्या सच है, right? Very very fairly. उनको धीरे से भी पकड़ में आ गया कि ये फेक है, they will just throw it out. फिर तुम्हारा कितना अच्छा exposure है, तुम्हारा कितना अच्छा CG है, तुम्हारा कितना अच्छा connection है, it doesn't matter at all. Because the most important part, I think they have been pushing us, maybe in the induction, maybe in our regular calls, is that honesty is very important in these firms. They value ethics a lot, right? If you are not ethical, if you are doing some random stuff, they will not be very happy. So yeah, you can try these
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, adding to that, like I'll classify internships into two categories because that's what general notion is about. So पहला होता है जिसमें you join some early stage startup or some startup kind of internships which is not an MNC, and second is you have a internship in an MNC, right? सो अगर दोनों कर सकते हो तो वेल एंड गुड, बट इफ यू टॉक अबाउट लाइक किसको प्रायोरिटाइज करे, सो आई थिंक अगर तुम स्टार्टअप में जा रहे हो, गोइंग इन अ स्टार्टअप, देन योर वर्क शुड बी मोर इम्पैक्टफुल, राइट? तुमने तुम्हारा काम ऐसा होना चाहिए जिसमें द रियल इम्पैक्ट दिखे तुम्हारी सीवी में व्हेन व्हेन समवन रीड्स, लाइक राइट। एंड अगर तुम किसी एमएनसी में जा रहे हो तो हो सकता है दे माइट बी अ स्लो पेस्ड वर्क, बट वहां पे भी यू शुड टारगेट रोल्स लाइक देवांश मेंशन, स्ट्रेटजी इंटर्न्स, ऑपरेशंस इंटर्न्स, like particularly I had a lot of supply chain interns in my CV, so I worked with a lot of companies in their supply chain department. So वहाँ पे काम was very slow paced, but the impact was okay, but I worked for a startup as well, but वहाँ पे काम was very fast paced. So I had sort of both of these things in my CV, and sort of both of these things helped me a lot. So अगर तुम brand वाले interns में जाओगे तो काम बहुत slow paced हो सकता है, right? एंड तुम स्टार्टअप में जाओगे तो मेक श्योर करो कि यू हैव सम गुड वर्क एंड यू हैव सम इम्पैक्टफुल वर्क। कभी कभी ये होता है कि जनरली पीपल जस्ट ज्वाइन ब्रांड वाले इंटर्न्स की सीवी में दिखाने के लिए, यू शुड नॉट डू दैट बिकॉज तुम डेटा एंट्री का काम कर रहे हो वहां जाके, दैट डजंट मेक एनी सेंस, राइट? यू आर नॉट गेनिंग एनी एक्सपीरियंस। सो अगर तुम स्लो पेस एनवायरमेंट में भी जा रहे हो, यू शुड मेक श्योर दैट सम इम्पैक्टफुल वर्क इज गिवन। मतलब आई एग्री दैट उतना इम्पैक्टफुल वर्क नहीं मिलेगा तुम्हें बिकॉज इट्स ऑलरेडी एस्टैब्लिश्ड एमएनसी, बट ट्राई टू गेट मैक्सिमम इम्पैक्टफुल वर्क। इट शुड नॉट बी लाइक कि तुम वहां बैठ के डेटा एंट्री का काम कर रहे हो ना आइडियल बैठे हो जस्ट टू मेंशन दैट पर्टिकुलर थिंग इन योर सीवी। ये दिस इज, आई डोंट रिकमेंड दिस। आई डोंट नो कंपनीज कितना वैल्यू करते हैं, डिमांड मेंशन की फ्लैग करने लग गई है अभी धीरे धीरे कंपनीज। सो वही मेरा भी सजेशन यही रहेगा कि डोंट ट्राई टू मेक अराउंड थिंग्स कि कंसल्टिंग इंटर्न डाल दी बट यू हैव नॉट डन एनी सॉर्ट ऑफ दैट वर्क, वो बहुत गंदा लगता है फिर।
Yeah, so I'll keep my answer very short. So to answer your question, internships are obviously very important because it's a specific section in your CV, and obviously each section has got like spikes, right? Spikes and related points. So obviously it's very important. So how do you judge a good internship so that you have a spike in your CV? I think like there are different ways, right? With respect to like research interns, an FTP at a good foreign university is definitely a spike. With respect to corporate interns, good brand values, good like brand values are definitely a spike. Or if you have like some good like BC on your firm, that is also a good spike. So this is just generally at the end of the day how you should judge a good internship. Yeah, I'll just keep my answer short because I think both of them have given like elaborate answers.
Good. Thank you. And as a follow-up, can you brief us about the process of approaching an intern in a bigger brand? Like in short.
I think cold mail ही करो, that's the best approach I have seen. Like जितने भी I have interns with बड़ी firms के साथ जितने भी interns, I have sort of cold mail their higher management and maybe HRs. So I think that is the best way to land an internship in a good branded company. But you should make sure that the work they give is impactful, a little impactful. I agree कि MNC में इतना impactful नहीं होता कभी कभी, but at least कुछ ऐसा वर्क मिले जिसका कुछ value हो firm को, right? So try to do that. Try to approach people in higher management. Like personally, what I used to do is head of supply chain के जो डिविजन होते थे, सप्लाई चेन का डिवीजन होता है लाइक हर एक कंपनी में। आई हैव अ लॉट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट इन सप्लाई चेन वाली इंटर्न्स, सो आई यूज्ड टू अप्रोच देयर हेड्स, देयर वाइस प्रेसिडेंट्स। ठीक है, तो वैसे आई हैव लैंडेड इंटर्नशिप्स। अब ये एंटायरली डिफरेंट क्वेश्चन हो जाएगा आई थिंक, हाउ टू अप्रोच ऑफ कैंपस इंटर्न्स।
So I found this explanation very informative. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so now moving on to our next question. There's always a lot of last minute preparation during internship season. So could you please share some like topics or things you reviewed just before the interviews that helped you throughout your interview process?
Yeah, if you ask me, with my experience, just don't review anything. ठीक है, just go with open mind. On the day of your interview you should not review anything, ठीक है, because तुम उससे एंजाइटी क्रिएट करोगे और कंसल्टिंग में तुम्हें ऐसा कुछ नहीं है कि तुम्हें अच्छा वो फॉर्मूला रह गया वो याद कर लेता हूँ वो पूछा जाएगा, समझ रहे हो? तो देर इज नथिंग वेरी स्पेसिफिक विच यू कैन रिमेम्बर. अगर तुम इंटरव्यू वाले दिन भी स्ट्रक्चर्स ही पढ़ रहे हो दैट शोज कि यू नो यू आर नॉट कॉन्फिडेंट. और कोई भी स्ट्रक्चर तुम जाकर किसी के सामने बोल नहीं सकते हो कि अच्छा ठीक है प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी में मैं पहले कॉस्ट रेवेन्यू ये सब कर दूंगा ऐसे. तो दैट इज वेरी सिंपल एंड दैट इज वेरी इजी टू ग्रैस्प. तो तुम्हें समझ आ गया तो आ गया. तो तुम्हें कुछ ऐसा चेकलिस्ट बनाने का जरूरत नहीं है. जस्ट दैट ठीक है, यू आर वेल ड्रेस्ड, यू आर कॉन्फिडेंट, यू हैव ईटन समथिंग, right? You have taken some water bottle with you. So these very little nuances you can keep in mind. Otherwise, my heartful request: don't prepare anything on the day of the interview. Just go with open heart.
I think like a week before your actual interview day, you'll have your buddy rounds. So probably you'll be busy with those. If the question is pertaining to the day before the interview, I think you can just, so what I personally did was I just went through the Excel sheet that I had with all the key takeaways from my other cases, and I'd also made like a few sheets to like summarize my own personal take on some frameworks, and I just like went through those and went for my interview. So I obviously like agree with Devans that you shouldn't obviously try to learn something new. I think this applies to anything as well, right? Even with JE, I'm pretty sure people told you don't try to learn anything new on the day before JE, just take a chill pill, blah blah blah. Same thing applies here as well. I think if you have the Excel with you, if you have like a summary of what you have done over the last few weeks, just go through that and just just give the interview. Yeah,
I think on the day of interviews, it's just about vibe check. So go with an open mind. Interview is just about vibe check, right? You have to go with an open mind. कितने frameworks कर लो, you don't know what the interviewer will ask, right? देवांश से तो puzzle पूछ लिया था, I think. So go with an open mind. ज़्यादा frameworks दिमाग में रखोगे, you will clear a lot of anxiety, right? तो उतनी anxiety create करने की there is no need. Just go with an open mind. Just try to establish conversations. Have a good discussion. अगर नहीं भी हो रहा है तो have a very good discussion with people who is the interviewer, right? Sometimes ये भी matter कर जाता है कि your interview went bad but you try to establish a good conversation with the partner or principal of that firm. So he's impressed with your questions. He's more interested in what you are doing. So कभी कभी वो चीजें भी matter कर जाती है. So go with an open mind entirely.
Oh yeah, on that, like one question on that. So after every round that you do with a partner, they'll ask you something like, oh, do you have any questions for me? And I think it's generally good practice to have some good questions for them. Like other than, oh, why did you choose consulting? Why did you choose so-and-so company? Or why did you choose to stay in consulting, etc. So I think that is a good starting point to maybe engage with them on some specific set of topics, etc. So I think have a preset of, this is something that I did not do and I wished I did. This is like a takeaway from my own experience. So I would say just think about a few things that you can probably like ask them, because they're definitely going to ask you if you have any questions for them, and just don't say no. If you like probably ask them a question, you'll probably be able to like create some sort of image in their mind, probably be able to stand out, etc. Right? And I think a good practice to go about this would be to maybe ask them about some interesting case that they've done, what their key takeaway was, etc. Try to like start a conversation using this question that they're going to ask you. So I think this is also something that you can probably think about, right? The kind of questions that you want to ask them, because they're definitely going to ask you if you have any questions for me. So
Also, guys, I think Janta has started dropping, so we should keep it short. And जो भी main questions है वो बता दो, and then just open the stage for questions, because उसमें
Yeah, sure.
So the next question is, during the interview, how can one effectively communicate their thought process and impress the interviewer? Any general interview tips or red flags to avoid?
ये more or less cover तो हो गया है.
yeah, ये cover
I
हो
think
गया.
just one additional thing here. I think you like something that you can do is prepare an introduction beforehand. And I don't think it's necessarily the KGP introduction that you should have. The introduction, like a good introduction, a good consult introduction is something that tells a story, right? Obviously not a 5-minute introduction. In a very few sentences, who you are, what you do, what was your journey like, what led you into consulting, what led you to this company, etc. So prepare a short, concise introduction that you can have that flows as a story to show who you are. This is something that you can do. I mean, you should do definitely, but other than that, I think this was like broadly covered in other questions.
Yeah, just keep it conversational. As Parvati told, introduction KGP वाला मत ही देना. मैं तो ये बोलूँगा कि don't give KGP's introduction. It is very static. तो तुम कुछ like prepare something else. prepare some 2-3 lines कि तुम क्या कर, like ऐसा जो तुम्हारा standard format है उसमें introduction नहीं दो तो better है. That's what I will prefer. Otherwise, keep it conversational. That's yeah. Next slide.
Yeah, so coming on to our final question, like what advice would you give to someone targeting an internship at your firm? Like this would be the mindset, consistency, or like anything you think now that you would have known earlier would have helped you.
यार आई थिंक एक टिप मैं यहाँ पे दूंगा कि डोंट बी वेरी डेस्परेट टू गो इनटू एमबीबी और सम सॉर्ट ऑफ कि इसी फॉर्म में जाना है मुझे, नहीं तो नहीं. डोंट बी वेरी मच डेस्परेट फॉर कंसल्टिंग इन जनरल, बिकॉज देखो 4 फॉर्म्स आती है हायर करने एंड यू डोंट नो हु विल गेट शॉर्टलिस्टेड, हु विल कन्वर्ट. सो गो विद एन ओपन माइंड इन सीडीसी एज वेल कि like go with zero expectations. That's what I want to say here. Ki CDC is a random process, so go with an open mind. Try to give your best. Keep applying after day 1, day 2 as well. That is also very important. अगर कोई company ऐसी आ रही है जिसमें you think you can is of your interest basically, so you can apply for that as well. It's not like कि consulting में जाना है, MBB में जाना है. Don't restrict your mind in 3 firms, इन 4 firms में ही जाऊंगा मैं, नहीं तो नहीं जाना. उससे फिर you create a lot of expectation, then फिर you don't know कि how CDC process will go on, right? So go with an open mind, go try to give your best, and let's hope for the best as well.
Yeah, nothing much to add. I think in the interest of time, we can like take questions from the audience. I think we have already like covered advice earlier on. Yeah.
Right. Just hope for the best and prepare for the best. That's the key for now.
So thank you so much for these extremely helpful and practical tips. I'm sure our Janta will benefit greatly from your experience.
So now we will now move on to our Q&A session. Audience, please feel free to drop your questions in the chat and we'll take them up. Also, one more announcement. Tomorrow we have another exciting panel discussion coming up on panel, so stay tuned.
Chat on है?
I think
Yeah.
इन लोग को दिख रहा होगा.
Okay.
Like there's one question that is there a different weightage given to different kind of spikes like ACADS, interns, etc. in the shortlisting process? Does the number of spikes or kind of spikes matter more, or does this criteria differ among the 3 forms?
यार आई थिंक वो टॉप डाउन वाला जो अप्रोच बताया कि द स्पाइक विच यू थिंक इज मोर इम्पोर्टेंट, ट्राई टू कीप दैट स्पाइक अबव, लाइक ऊपर रखने का ट्राई करो उसे, राइट? और जो स्पाइक तुम्हें लग रहा है कि इट माइट नॉट बी दैट रेलेवेंट, तो उसे नीचे कर सकते हो, राइट? दैट इज, बाकी इसे कुछ वेटेज होता है, आई डोंट थिंक कि ऐसा कुछ नोशन है. सो ट्राई टू डू दैट कि जो स्पाइक की ज्यादा वेटेज है, ट्राई टू कीप दैट टॉप ऑफ योर सीवी, एंड जिसका वेटेज तुम्हें कम लगता है, ट्राई टू कीप इट डाउन.
But also, I don't think the 3 of us are the best people to answer this question. I don't think any of us are, because I think this is something that is very subjective to the kind of firm that is there and the kind of
Right.
recruitment team that is there, right? What each firm holds as important. I don't think this is something that any of us can answer. So yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
very
pretty sure
subjective
there are
question.
different, yeah, I'm pretty sure there must be like different weightages to different spikes, but honestly, any answer that we give will be speculative at max, right? So yeah.
So coming to our next question. Considering the case competition, especially talking about BHI, how one should prepare for it, as the format is very different relating to a normal case comp.
Yeah, I think for BHI we already conducted a session before. You can reach out to different people who are part of different seasons BHI. But broadly covering BHI is yeah, it is similar to any startup building competition. So it's not a case competition per se, but it is a startup building competition where you have to come up with an idea, right? Prepare a 5-slider deck with your business model, with your competitor benchmarking, your problem and your solution, right? So this is a kind of startup building competition where you are presenting an idea based on maybe some particular theme. They will also be open for any theme, right? So you just need to make a good analysis of your idea, why the problem is important, what is the competitor benchmarking, what is your USP, right? So generally you can pick any theme, you can pick any idea, any problem, and then just prepare their tech. So this is not very similar to other competitions, but not very different as well. So yeah.
Like moving on to our next question, like one has asked that should we practice and should we're saying something? Yeah. So should we practice DSA along with this, like as a backup in tech, as opportunities are more there? And like what was backup for you on?
I mean, yeah, definitely. I don't think you should put, as the saying goes, I don't think you should put all your eggs in one basket. So obviously, do not go into CDC thinking that consulting is your one and only priority. Obviously, have a lot of other options as well. Have a plan B, have a plan C in case plan B doesn't work. So if tech is something that interests you after consulting, sure, right? Prepare DSA so that you do have a backup. For me personally, as I mentioned, I was not a very technical person. So my backup plan was having finance. Like my plan B was finance and my plan C was like data. But even for data, I didn't do a lot of like DSA per se. It was like a very far plan C. So it was not a very like effective plan C per se. But yeah, my plan B was finance. So definitely to keep it short, obviously you have backups. And if tech is something that interests you, yeah, do DSA. Yeah.
So like when we hear like the consultant or the consultant, there are some terms like the data consultant, IT consultant, how they are different from a normal consulting role or consulting job.
Yeah, so I think there are different divisions in consulting firms. I don't know about other firms, but at least for BCG, it has different divisions like BCGX, BCG Gamma, BCG Platinum, right? And these divisions are specifically for particular domains. So in general, consulting is a generalist role. So there will be traditional consulting and there will be specialist consulting. Okay. So nowadays these companies are coming up with their different sub branches. So for BCGX there is different hiring. For BCG Gamma there is different hiring. है ना? तो इन सब के लिए आजकल they are hiring from different colleges. They are not hiring from IITs currently, but they will soon start hiring from IITs as well, as per my knowledge.
But if you ask us questions to know if there are like different sets of like different preparation for different source of these roles, as far as CDC internship is concerned, all consulting roles are like you can more or less not more or less, they are the same and the preparation is the same for all of those. That is available at the intern level at KGP, right?
Right, so next
So moving to our next question, is doing MBA important for consulting?
नहीं मतलब important नहीं, that's why we are here, right? So I think पहले I think ऐसा होता था कि there was a general notion कि associate level पे they used to hire from MBA colleges. Like even McKinsey started hiring from 2 years back only BA interns, business analyst interns. Earlier they used to hire interns from MBA colleges only. So I think this general notion is changing slowly that कि MBA करना is a necessity for a consulting job. I think BCG in main used to hire from, I don't know, from quite a few years I think. But McKinsey started hiring recently. So the notion is changing in the industry that you need to have an MBA wala thing. That's what I have seen my associates as well. Ki most of them are at par with MBA people around them only. So doesn't matter if you do an MBA or not.
So like next question is like as you said, we should not be like very strict about going only for a consulting firm particularly. So like what other domains align with consulting such that preparation for one helps with the other?
I think product management is a good field जो थोड़ा align भी करता है because that's where you solve business problems as well. है ना? And FMCG companies you can also target, but again, the number of companies in FMCG is very less. And there are a couple of roles जो day 3 day 4 पे आते हैं which hire for business analyst roles. So you can try out that as well. वो भी they check your analytical skills only. So you can target them as well.
So moving to our next question, while applying for off-campus opportunities, how do a normal BTech person would compete with the others who are preparing at college like IIM, ISB, etc.?
You are not a normal BTech person. You are from IIT. So I think that answers the question. You are not competing with IIM wale people. People are competing with you. So I don't think so you should worry about this.
So like for the next question, I would like to ask that like what is considered a good POR? Like for IIT Kharagpur,
Good POR. Yeah, there are different position of responsibilities in KGP that a 4-year person and a 5-year person could pursue. Starting from your, you know, maybe your different clubs at IIT Kharagpur, cell societies. Then obviously there is this Gymkhana. So you can start building your PORs from secretary level to maybe VP, right? And then, yeah, I think these are the two things. And the final is the placement committee. So I think these are the different PORs at KGP.
I think the best way to look at PORs or to judge what a good POR is to essentially compare what the skill set is required to be a good consultant and to look at the kind of skill set that is required to hold that POR. If both of those match, then the POR that you hold is a good POR. If they don't match, I mean, the company doesn't necessarily see any good utility from hiring you. I think that's a good way to judge PORs.
So moving to our next question. How does a research internship give you an edge when we are talking about consult?
I mean, so I've heard that like having an FTP on your CV is a spike. I'm not really sure how or why this is the case. I think it's probably because like good FTPs at like good universities are probably given out to people with like good CGs or probably like good experience something. So I think the reason this is a spike is because maybe it implies a lot of like underlying like underlying things, right? For example, that you might have good CG or like that you might have other good background per se. So while there is no direct impact from research, at the end of the day, I think this is one of the reasons as to why like FTP is mentioned as a spike. But again, I don't think there's any positive like direct impact from, sorry, direct relation from having a research intern and like consult.
next question is like with accordance with our question about POR. So like is department representative a good POR?
यार आई थिंक यू शुड नॉट थिंक कि ये गुड पीओर है कि बैड पीओर है बिकॉज ऐसा कुछ टैग होता नहीं है राइट जहां तुम्हें जो अपॉर्चुनिटी मिल रही है वेर यू कैन परफॉर्म बेटर एंड वेर यू कैन पुट योर बेस्ट एफर्ट्स दैट इज गुड बिकॉज एवरीवन इज उनको दिल से पता है कि कौन सा पीओर की कितनी वैल्यू है राइट तो वो सबको क्लैरिटी होती है एंड दैट एक्सेप्टेंस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट I think we can wrap the session if these people don't have any more questions because anytime they can reach out to us directly. ऐसा कुछ load है नहीं. They can reach
Yeah.
out on WhatsApp itself.
Right.
Like there are just 2 questions left, so we
Huh.
can wrap up after it.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. So the question is like in the interviews itself, how to tackle cases without over relying on frameworks.
Yeah, I think this is also pretty much covered. Framework is nothing but structuring your answer into maybe जो हमने approach बताई, right? Star framework. वो is the baseline framework for all your questions, right? And जब भी तुम्हें कुछ problem मिलती है, just first find out the scope of the problem कि तुम्हारी boundaries कितनी हैं. And I'll just quickly wrap this question कि just to find out the scope of the question, ask good preliminary questions. And whatever the situation is, just break it down into messy approach. And finally, just be as much conversational as possible with your partner, principal, or case leader, and try to come up with the insights and just solve it. Right? There is nothing much and nothing less.
Yeah, just like quickly adding on to that, I think what frameworks like teach you at the end of the day is how to be structured in the way that you think and how to be structured in the way that you like present your answers. So in terms of like solving cases without framework is concerned, it is just about structuring both your thinking and the way that you're presenting answers like properly, right? And to answer your question, it comes from practice, like as like you just practice cases and you become structured in the way that you speak.
Yeah, I think initially सब लोग frameworks की help लेते हैं to structure their thoughts, but eventually मैंने भी I stop relying on frameworks. So as you practice, you will stop relying on frameworks automatically.
one last question, like one person has asked, before applying for a placements, having an intern at the same company, as in case of like BCG, McKinsey, and Bain, how much does it tend to get placed in the same company after having intern?
पीपीओ की बात हो रही है.
Yeah, it's like that. You have interned in a particular company and then you apply for placement in the same. So, will you be getting some edge over it? Other?
यार आई थिंक जितना मुझे क्वेश्चन समझ आ रहा है कि यू नो ऑल दीज कंसल्ट कंपनीज हैज द कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ प्री प्लेसमेंट ऑफर्स एंड जो इंटर्नशिप पूल है वो उसको उसी में जज कर लेती है, सो दे विल नॉट यू नो अगर तुम इसमें नहीं हो रहा है तो आई डोंट थिंक सो वो वापस से कंसिडर करेगी सेम, बिकॉज दे हैव ऑलरेडी जज्ड यू इन योर इंटर्नशिप एंड विल डिसाइड ऑन पीपीओ, सो दैट इज द कॉन्सेप्ट इन ऑल द कंसल्टिंग.
हाँ, मतलब उसमें तो वापस मिलना इट्स वेरी, मतलब नहीं मिलेगा क्योंकि दे हैव ऑलरेडी जज्ड यू.
So now let's move on to our sponsor. This brings us to PrepNest, a platform built for internship and placements. PrepNest offers four broad features: AI resume review, AI interviews, resource hub, mentorship, and job portals. The AI resume review analysis your CV based on four pillars: basic, impact, visual, and relevance. Basic scores the basic content of your review, like contact details, education, etc. Visual scores the format of your CV, like font, layout structure, and spacing. It also provides a graph based on these four pillars, maximizing the insight you gain. Relevance shows how relevant your CV is to job role you have selected and tell you what to add to increase relevance. An AI agent takes your AI interview with the AI generated video and audio. It gives you the feel of a real interview. Today we have launched the Job Ready Challenge. Step 1. Sign up on the platform using QR link below. Step 2. Upload your resume and give an AI interview. Step 3. Get scores and feedback on your job readiness. So Janta, scan the QR and interact on your CV and yourself. So thank you, panelists. We are now at the end of this insightful session. Would either of you like to share any final funda or tip that you think you might have missed?
Hi, so not really. I think all the questions were like, I think we've covered everything more or less in everything that we have mentioned. At the end of the day, like keep it cool, keep it chill. CDC is like a very tiring process. If you do it like very diligently, it's very tiring. It can get very demotivating. So I know it will sound cliche, but at the end of the day, just give your best and keep your cool, and then let's just see where it takes you, right? So yeah, all the very best, guys, and hopefully this was informative and like fun for you guys as well. So yeah, and feel free to like reach out to us whenever, right? Yeah.
Once again, hearty congratulations to Anshu, Devansh, and Parvati for your well-deserved offers. Thank you for taking the time to share such valuable insights with us. I'm sure your words will motivate and guide many aspirants. Thank you.
Thank you guys. Bye bye. Good night.
Before we wrap up,
Yes, thank you.
big shout
Feel
out
free
to
to-
our audience as well for staying engaged and interactive.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. See you tomorrow. Have a great evening.
Yep. Thank you for having us. Bye,
Okay, thank
guys.
you.
Thank you.
Yep.